As his train barreled down the tracks toward a pack of wolves standing directly on it, the young engineer Dennis thought the animals would scatter at the last second, but the predators didn't move as if guarding something invisible to the eye. The engineer took a gamble and activated the emergency brake lever, knowing that he probably wouldn't be able to stop in time when the train finally stopped a few meters before the pack of wolves and the Grey Guardians gradually opened the path for the passengers to get off. They would all freeze in horror when they later heard this story. Dennis grew up in a small village hidden in the vast Siberian forests, where the only local source of income was the railway depot. He was part of a family of hereditary railwaymen, with professional skills passed down to him from his father and grandfather came a particular love for these places. Wanting a graduate education in engineering, the young man went away into the city, but the noise of the corrupt urban world and polluted air made him crave his native lands. Dennis never forgot how the tiger smelled after rain and how the snow crunched underfoot on a frosty day back in his hometown with an engineering degree in hand. Dennis found work at the same depot where generations of his family had worked. He began from nothing but his will, and natural instincts did not go unnoticed. Bit by bit, he was given more and more responsibility and eventually was promoted to senior engineer. And when he became sufficiently seasoned, he was reassigned to freight trains, actual iron giants that traveled over great stretches of Siberia. Dennis loved his job. Each journey became a little adventure for him to witness the beauty of the natural wilderness at its fullest. These landscapes were particularly enticing in winter. Boundless, snowy plains, trees in fluffy white coats, frozen rivers was glimmering like crystals. And on one such winter day in January, when frost turned his breath to swirling silver vapor and sunlight danced on a million snow crystals, Dennis felt that something that would forever change the way he viewed the world around him. It was a routine trip. Dennis was driving a heavy freight train through a snowy forest, enjoying the quiet sight through the cabin window. He looked carefully at the railway tracks that ran in front of him, continuing into the distance. And suddenly, some few kilometers ahead, he spotted some strange, dark spot literally on the rails. The engineer took a breath, then looked up. A structure on the tracks was dangerous, but the distance was too far to determine precisely what had impeded the path of the multi-ton train. Dennis scanned vigorously ahead in an attempt to gauge what the obstruction was, poised for an emergency brake at any second. As the train got closer, the black shape became clearer. It was neither a fallen tree nor man-made debris. What he saw caused his heart to race. There were some creatures on the tracks, and they seemed in no hurry to vacate the way. As he got even closer, Dennis was stunned to see a pack of wolves, gray-white silhouettes, offered a stark contrast in the snow. In a tight cluster on the rails, the animals seemed to be purposely blocking the path of the train. Such behavior was so out of character for these weary predators that Dennis could hardly believe his eyes. He again sounded the horn immediately, as is the protocol. It reverberated over the tiger, off the trees. Normally, a sound like that would send any wild animal fleeing in terror, but the wolves, as he was to learn, didn't even flinch. Instead, they continued standing, forming a living barricade on the train's path. Dennis had only seconds to decide. His survival instinct told him to keep going. The train wouldn't be able to stop over a short distance, and wild animals tended to bolt at the last second. But something about the unusual behavior of the wolves had made him doubt after a fraction of a second of agonizing hesitation. Dennis yanked down on the emergency brake lever. The animals were just a few dozen meters away. An almost eerie metallic squeal ripped through the tiger silence. As the train's wheels screeched along the rails, the train started to slow, but not fast enough. The eyes closed. Dennis braced for the impact. Every second felt like an eternity. He pictured the mass of the multi-ton machine plunging into the living barrier, and it made him shudder after the screeching of wheels died away. Dennis opened his eyes and, to his relief, saw that the train had halted only meters away from the wolf pack. But the next thing he saw froze him. The wolves huddled, close heads raised as they howled with worry. There was no fleeing or display of aggression. They appeared to be guarding or defending something. And only once the threat of collision had passed did the predators begin to slowly separate. What met the eye of Dennis shocked him down to his bones. A person was lying on the railway track. If there were wild predators nearby, Dennis would not venture outside the cabin, but the wolves, as if divining his fears, slowly faded back into the thicket of the woods, ensuring that the animals have moved out of harm's way. Dennis, clutching a poker for protection, leaped onto the snow and slowly made his way toward the lying figure. His shock only deepened with every step he recognized this person. It was Stepan Movich, the local game warden, a man already well into his 70s. This man had given his entire life to protect the forests and the creatures inside them, and Dennis knew him from his childhood. As it got closer, the young engineer noticed something shocking. The old man's hands were cuffed to the rails. The cold metal restricted the elderly man's wrists and around the handcuffs. It was raw and bloody. Dennis, barely able to suppress his anger and horror, assisted in freeing the game warden from Stepan Mikovich. He heard a story that would send chills down the soul. The answer was a long-held grudge by local poachers against the principled game warden, who the poachers' crew had decided to avenge for his stopping of their illegal practices for years. This courageous man freed animals trapped by traps and bullets, tracked down the violators and turned them in many wolves in these forests, still lived because of his selfless work. The old man had long been threatened by the poachers, but never thought they'd have the gall to commit such atrocity. They followed him as he patrolled the territory and knocked him unconscious with a blow to the head. And when he awoke, he was already in cuffs to the rails waiting for the train to come. Stepan Mikovich said he had resigned himself to his fate when he heard the horn of the approaching train. But then something amazing happened. A band of wolves came out of the woods. These proud, weary predators he'd sheltered these years surrounded him, a living shield without them. Dennis may not have even spotted the lone old man on the rails just in time to halt the multi-ton train each time he passes through that patch of woods. Dennis slows the train and looks carefully into the snow-dusted fir trees. At times he believes he sees gray shadows flitting through the trees as the tiger finds himself. They only understand one thing: loyalty and gratitude that has no borders between the worlds of man and wild. Dear friend, don't forget to subscribe our channel, The Animals 2.0.